Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. Attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully. Early this morning.
Woo, look at that, ladies and gentlemen. They actually got the guy. Turns out when you actually investigate crimes and don't cause mass hysteria, you can actually arrest people. Yeah. Kash Patel today basically said that they had all of the information previously, and all you had to do was dig through it. So it turns out as long as you do a cop job and like you're actually digging into stuff, like all this stuff you see on TV, you can actually catch bad guys. And contrary to what CNN said today, which you're going to hear in a little bit, the guy wasn't white. That's right. The title of this episode, the January 6th pipe bomber was not white, is actually combating misinformation that got put out on mainstream media today. But here's a view from the scene and what Deputy Director Dan Bongino had to say about it.
Sean, I don't know what the hell this prior leadership team was doing outside of targeting political opponents, weaponizing the FBI, destroying its reputation, embarrassing agents that are doing really good work out there, catching terrorists, CCP spies and everyone else. It's almost like they were intentionally trying to decimate faith in institutions. It's horrifying. No. I don't know what they were doing. I can tell you what happened, though, when we got there, the director and I. My first meeting, I swore in, and I kid you not, probably 15 minutes later, and the people who are in the meeting know, I said, when I get in there, I want a full brief on this pipe bomber case on day one. And I looked at the case agent after getting a full brief on what they'd done, and they had done a pretty extensive amount of work. They had chased down, I think, thousands of leads, 6,000 plus interviews had been conducted, hundreds of tips, and it still was relatively stale, the case. And I grabbed the case agent on the way out, and I said, "You're going to get me this guy. You're going to track this guy down, and you're going to find him. You're going to get me this guy. I want him." And that started what's been almost a 9-month operation right now to make sure that we could get full accountability and transparency to the American public and find this guy. And today we did. But Sean, I have to add this because this is.
Yep, not a white guy. Had to throw that out there. Somebody says, well, number one, I want to thank all of you who smashed the like button twice and remind you guys to subscribe to the channel. Some of you guys can't believe this. You're in shock that there's not a white man on your screen right now, or an Afghan probably. But allow me to explain. This gentleman used to be a bail bondsman, and during Trump's last presidency, he was like actually quite pissed off. The word on the street is that the bail bondsman, all right, that he worked for, like that company, was very pro illegal immigration. And that was probably one of the motives that ended up going into this. But let's let Dan finish out, because yeah, again, they had all of the paperwork. They just had to dig through the tens and thousands of documents that they had in order to get everything nailed down.
Really important. You've heard all the cliches, team effort. You hear it all the time in sports. I said it today at the presser, but I want to emphasize this. This was a team. Judge Jeanine, Deputy Attorney General Blanche, people you and I know very well, AG Bondi, you cannot do anything in the FBI without DOJ process. Subpoenas, drawn paper, search warrants, complaints, arrest warrants. Who do you think does that? It's not just us. We're the investigators. They're the lawyers. So that team, from day one, I told Pam and Todd, I said, hey, Kash and Kash could not have been more supportive. He's like, Dan, go for it. They said, whatever you need. And their attorneys over there were amazing on this case. So don't just throw the team effort thing out like it's just a standard cliche. I mean it. They really did a great job.
New York throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Sky God coming in hot tonight. Thank you, sir. Gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships as we kick this show off. This was a look from his house. And again, I remind you, This picture that's here was not up on the screen when they said this.
Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosions. CNN observed local and federal law enforcement outside his home in Woodbridge, Virginia this morning. Capitol.
Yep. If you guys didn't know, this isn't a white man. This is a white man. Just throwing it out there for all of you guys. Like, you might need to get your eyeballs checked. You might have some issues over there. Might not be able to fly any airplanes. Well, there you go. Pipe bombers off the street. I'll do an in-depth report, like digging into that entire case tomorrow, digging through all the documents and everything else that ended up coming out and getting released today. That way I can give you guys an honest to God opinion, but it looks like the Bureau did their job, dug through all the old documents, took them 9 months to make it happen. But at the end of the day, we got someone arrested. Thank God that person's off. It wasn't a cop. It wasn't some crazy Jewish person. It wasn't anybody on Trump's team trying to set it up. It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't none of that crap. It was an immigration bail bondsman. Mary Dean says, thank you for what you do. Well, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. And believe me, we're going to get into your crooked state here in just a little bit before we even pour into New Orleans, which was a complete and total poop show within itself, but we haven't got that far yet. Wolf, that is alone, says LMAO, the newscaster, called him a 30-year-old white man. Yeah. Did you not read the title that you clicked on, or did you just see the thumbnail that said, stop calling me a retard? Because that's a thing. We're going to get in there. The whole boat bombing problem that ended up going down over in the Caribbean, where they're like, it was a double tap. It was an illegal strike, and shame on them. They're murdering people. This isn't legal. Everybody.
These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we would expect our military commanders to do.
And that's all I really have to play from this clip for you guys. Lawful, legal, exactly what our military commanders had to do. Today, they went down and ended up giving a brief to congressmen, the admiral, along with this other guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but they went over, showed him everything, talked to him about why it happened. Oh, by the way, they also ended up having like a JAG attorney or a military law attorney present throughout the entire strike. All right. So that attorney is sitting there advising them, yep, you can do that. Yep, you can do that. Yep, you can do that. As it turns out, there was allegedly 2 survivors that ended up coming off the boat that got blown out of it. They were crawling back into the boat. They intercepted radio communications of those people on the boat that were communicating to another boat that was en route over to go recover the drugs and help them out. If so facto, Bob's your uncle, they drop another munition on it, and the boat sinks down to the bottom. Why? Because the drugs could have been recovered, but nobody on the left wants to tell you about it. Old Man Y says, why does treason come into play for the people and government officials? When does treason come into play for the people and government officials letting this happen by not governing properly? Dude, that's a really good question. Personally, I think it should. And right now they're playing on the side of incompetence. And I think that this administration is trying very, very carefully not to dance on the side of charging people with treason, even though I really think they should, like personally. But we'll see. I got a feeling it's going to happen before the end of Trump's reign here. C8 USA says ended up sending in 5 Speak the Truth memberships. But yeah, obviously not everybody was happy about it because everybody's got to find something to complain about, right? Right?
Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors. Bad guys, but attacking shipwrecked sailors. Now, there's a whole set of contextual items that the Admiral explained. Yes, they were carrying drugs. They were not in the position to continue their mission in any way. Any American who sees the video.
They were not in a position to continue mission, but you know who was? The guys that were on their way to help them that they radioed that were driving that way with a boat. And for those of you guys that don't know, United States is really good at like SIGINT or signal intelligence. Like we will pretty much intercept anything that is attached to your body. Like we're pretty dang good. And So I have zero doubt whatsoever that they were able to do that. And because of that, you know what we ended up answering back with today? Just because they're like, yes, this was a righteous strike. I'm pretty sure Hegseth just sat there and said, you know what? Let's blow up another boat. So today they ordered a strike on another drug vessel that was leaving Venezuela. There you can see it getting blasted out of the dang water as it goes. That is not nearly the size of destruction that the pipe bomb would have done from a white pipe bomber, but maybe a black guy carrying a pipe bomb could have caused that amount of destruction. I don't know. But either way, that's how Hegseth ended up answering back today, as everybody was getting pissed off over inside of Dearborn, Michigan. Or I'm sorry, not Dearborn. Wow, Matt. Wow, dude. I am so used of talking about radical Islamists over inside of Dearborn, Michigan, that in my brain, I was thinking of Minnesota. And then I was like, words came out, Dearborn. It's an honest mistake. Could happen to anybody, honestly, in this country.
Ice-kana laga ilaalinaya. Masha Allah. Abowe. Ice-kana laga ilaalinaya. Safety-geena ma la sugaya. Masha Allah, waa ujeedaan saaxiibayaal.
She's literally talking to the police officer in Somali, going, hey, bro, you're going to protect us, aren't you? And he just gives her yep, I got you. Don't worry about it. So I have zero faith in the police over there. ICE raids actually started taking off across the country. I mean, they were absolutely going to town. And Tim Walz is really upset because I can't make this up, with everything that's going on in today's world, with everything that's going on, he went on a tirade, because people are calling him retard.
Are you okay with the president calling our neighbors garbage? Are you okay with him referring to Minnesota as a hellhole, unfactually untrue? This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned. Are you okay with the president calling our neighbors garbage?
I'm not going to encourage you guys. You know what? I'll run a poll though. I'm just curious. I'll run the poll. Do you think that Walz is we won't use the whole word. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna take it back to the 90s in this poll while I continue to go through this. And if you feel the need, if you don't have enough information to confidently vote on the poll that I just hit put down in the chat, give it a couple minutes, because I am going to give you some information here. All right, I'm gonna give you some information. Menace says the R word like he's 6 years old. Right. Yeah, he's treating it like it's retard. It's okay. You can say it. I mean, the guy look at him, for crying out loud. Look at him. And I want to let everybody know that it is a crime to assault mentally impaired people over inside of the state of Minnesota. It's actually like an enhancement crime. Ad by die hook fishing. You got me. All right. Fine. And Incog Faraday coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships as well. Thank you guys. Turn it off ads. Do me a favor. Keep them flowing so we can keep going through this entire poop show that's going on over inside of Minnesota. Yeah, he's upset. He thinks that they're not all garbage people. But what they're not going to tell you is that today there was about 400 stolen cars worth approximately $40 million that HSI ended up recovering. Allegedly on their way over to the Middle East. And this is just one of many things that was on its way out of there today. $40 million worth of stolen vehicles. 40 million that they ended up intercepting. That is one case of the crap that they're doing over there. One case, $40 million. All of this stuff going on inside of Minnesota. The amount of fraud, the amount of theft, the amount of crime, all of it that's going on over there is insane. Again, 40 mil. That within itself could be a complete and total headline. People could take all of that stuff, right? Walz is pissed. Everybody's pissed that DHS is running through their city and ripping out of illegals. So let's take a look at some of the criminals that they're getting off the street over there real quick before we get in this next segment. This is Mohammed Abdi, a criminal illegal from Somalia. He's a Vice Lords member, former Gangster Disciples member, and has a long list of criminal convictions. Thanks to ICE, his ass is off the streets of Minneapolis during Operation Metro Surge. They gave another one. Meet Sahal Shadain, a criminal illegal from Somalia. He's a sex predator with a conviction for criminal sexual conduct with a minor aged 13 to 15. Thanks to ICE, his ass is off the streets of Minneapolis. Meet Mukhtar Ali, a criminal alien from Somalia. She has convictions.
I don't know what the hell this prior leadership team was doing.
Who's telling you to speak, man? Nobody. Nobody's telling you to speak. Oh, wrong guy. Oh my goodness. I got lost in translation of tabs. Holy frickin' cow. Where did they all go? Yeah. Anyways, back up. So he has convictions for fraud, assault, robbery, larceny, and ICE also got him off the street. So they are actually going after criminals over inside of Minnesota, and they're doing a good job getting them off the street. And it kind of makes you wonder who was behind the door of that lady that we talked to last night, right? Hopefully you guys didn't miss that one. If you guys missed it, last night's show, y'all really need to go back there and watch that again. Like you seriously need to go watch that again. And again, Walz complaining that people are calling them retards and that they're bad people. But let's be honest, it's not like they're going around like pooping and peeing inside of your food, right? Like Somalians couldn't possibly be going around pooping and peeing in your food.
I've seen that my former home state of Minnesota is currently in the news due to Trump and the Somalian issue. I worked at a major food production facility that supplies the United States and Canada with food. I watched as they brought Somalians in, and they began to urinate and defecate wherever they please within this food production facility plant.
I take it back. Maybe they are pooping and peeing in your food.
We had to put up signs explaining how to use the bathroom correctly, but yet it was never corrected.
Anybody that's been to the Middle East inside of the military that saw the Porter Johns and the footprints on side of them knows exactly what this man's talking about.
I've seen as grown men wash their genitals within the sinks, made homemade bidets from the garbage in the break rooms, and then brought in a roach infestation to the plant. Once again, I will tell you this is a major food production facility and cannot shut down for anything. I did, however, have it shut down once for a lockdown due to one of them returning to the food processing facility with a knife. It's a real problem.
Oh, well, thank God the food production facilities in America won't shut down with fecal matter potentially making its way into the food. They'll just hang signs and tell, employees to stop using the sinks as bidets, and then they come running into work with knives. Disobey says, didn't Tim Walz have two Dems assassinated? Why isn't he in prison? Well, hey, listen, just because the guy that killed that lady came out and said that Tim Walz told her to do it, and he happened to be like one of Tim Walz's staffers prior to, doesn't mean that Tim Walz would have done anything like that. It's not like the stuff that she was coming out on could have hurt his reputation in any way.
And it's a major reason why I left Minnesota. I just want everyone to know that I hold no ill towards these people. It's not their fault. They come from somewhere that has a private problem.
Okay, well, we're done with that. We're done with that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, poop, pee, all that stuff making its way into the food. The places that ended up getting listed, Hormel Foods, quality, I can't even. Hormel Foods, Quality Pork Processing, JBS Pork Processing Plant, Genio Turkey, 5 of them that are in Minnesota, Schwann's Company Frozen Foods Plant, Faribault Foods Canning Plant, CHS Soybean Plant, CHS Oilseed, Cargill Turkey, Cargill Protein, Land O'Lakes Dairy Foods plant, General Mills cereal ingredient plant. There's like 3 or 4 General Mills plants there. Kemp's Dairy Plant ×2 and an ice cream plant. Pilgrim's Pride Golden Plump Pepsi Beverages bottling plant. Of course, Reyes Coca-Cola bottling plant. All of those are over in the great state of Minnesota. And all of those very likely employ people from there. Just want to throw all of that out there for you. Blue Collar Colonizer says, I've been roofing my whole life in Florida. There would always be tiny footprints on the porta potty seat and crap on the wall. You didn't even have to go to the Middle East to experience it, man. I don't even know what to tell you. I am so freaking upset at you right now. That's like a gift, that only you should get from there. It has now came out from the federal prosecutor as to why all of the billions between the new figure, by the way, is anywhere between $1 to $6 billion worth of fraud that ended up coming out of Minnesota. Now that is a lot of money. That is more money. It's said to be more money wasted on fraud inside of Minnesota underneath Tim Walz than they spend on their entire prison system for 1 year. The amount of, think about that, the amount of money for fraud, more amount of money for fraud than the entire prison system for 1 year. And a reporter might have asked Timmy Boy about that today. And Timmy was a little bit upset. And when I mean a little bit upset, he was a lot of bit upset. She asked what the hell took him so long. Why didn't they do anything about it, basically?
Well-being first and foremost.
Governor, on the press a few days ago, you said that you take responsibility for putting people in jail, but all the fraud so far has been federal prosecutions. Why did you say,
they prosecute.
Erroneously say that you...
I didn't erroneously say that. We're the ones that our agencies are bringing it up.
He claimed, for those of you that don't know, and I pray to God I have the clip here in just a sec, he claimed that he was the one that put all those people in jail, not the feds. And again, the federal prosecutors that looked into this ended up stating the reason that, like, they knew that it existed. They knew it existed, but they chose not to do anything about it because they were scared of getting accused of being racists.
Referring them over, this is how this works. We were through it through the BCA. This is Drew Evans and the superintendent of BCA. These are Minnesota folks who work in state government, who are the ones that are helping build the case, turn it over to the federal authority.
So what he's saying, because I see that the audio on that video, for whatever reason, isn't balanced. He's saying, no. We turned all of the information over to the feds for them to prosecute it. We turned all of that over to the feds for them to prosecute it. Absolutely ridiculous. They had the ability to go in and do all of that crap. Yes, the pool is closed, ladies and gentlemen. The pool on Tim being a Riri is closed unless you want me to open it up. Now, again, like I said, it's not like they're horrible people. Like you can't call these people horrible people. Can you? I mean, what if they want to just kill white people?
Somalis are definitely being targeted, being scapegoated. I don't know when America started caring about fraud. What I know from America is if you are rich and powerful and white, yeah, your claim to fame is fraud. The fact that you guys are upset that Somalis are doing it is kind of weird. Some Somalis did it, okay? Well, if I benefited from that money, I would say, yeah, and I had a good time. Rich people are mostly white men, okay? White men and women, and we all know that they pillaged the planet, right? And that's how they got their money, but I am supposed to feel bad because my people finally decided to get themselves involved in white people business? No. Steal more and send me some, please. Somalis are definitely being targeted.
Just steal more and send me some. She's perfectly okay with all of the theft that's going on in the world. Just steal more, she says. Just take more money from everybody. Just take it all, because it's not like nonprofits are also in on this.
5 investigates found lawmakers gave money to some organizations that may be in violation of state law.
This state-of-the-art building in St. Paul is the new modern home for the nonprofit 30,000 Feet. It's one of 24 organizations identified by 5 investigates that received state money, but that are not registered with the state attorney general's office. Most charities that have these big donate here buttons on their websites are required to register so you can see their financial health. The state says those not registered may be a red flag. So tell me what happened.
We had lapse. I think we were supposed to have wet signatures. So by the time we figured out that we didn't have the wet signatures, we had lapsed within the AG office.
Okay. And have you fixed it since?
Yep, we have fixed it. Yep, we're active.
This nonprofit is far from alone. Our review found that since 2024, nearly $20 million in state money is going to dozens of unregistered organizations. We brought our findings to Speaker of the House, Lisa Damuth. Is the state not checking this before they hand out public dollars?
It doesn't sound like the state is doing a very good job checking, and that's something that will need to change.
You don't say. That's not something that you need to change. That's something that should have been done a long time ago. I saw like hundreds of people had actually reported the fraud. I brought to you guys a website, like an actual like X account that was devoted to outing all of the fraud. And it's allegedly nothing but state workers from Minnesota that were bringing this up and reporting it. They flat out ignored it, and they didn't want to get looked at as if they were racist because they thought it would hurt their constituents. So they allowed it to go on. In billions with a B, now confirmed, between $1 to $6 billion with a B was actually stolen from the state of Minnesota. It's actually god dang ridiculous. And I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I don't think the attorney general maybe is being as honest. The Minnesota attorney general is being as honest about it as he should be. I think, no, there's no way. No, let's, do you think the Minnesota attorney general maybe could have possibly been bribed? Let's see what he has to say first.
I do want to ask you about the fraud scandal. I mean, because the president's comments seem at least in part fueled by, or he's talking about this fraud scandal that we mentioned earlier involving that charity called Feeding Our Future. The vast majority of these 70 defendants charged in the case were Somali. For perspective, those are nearly 80,000 Somalis in the state. How much, critics have said that state officials, including you and the governor, did not act fast enough or quickly enough to investigate charges of fraud against the Feeding Our Future and did little to flag their allegations to federal authorities. I know you said it was the federal government that didn't move fast enough. Is there something you wish you had done differently?
No, first of all, the Department of Education denied claims when questionable claims were made about these meals. My office went to court, explained that to the court. A judge actually found the department in contempt for denying claims. And we cooperated fully and worked well with the FBI. We're glad that we took the action that we did.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. The man couldn't have possibly committed fraud. He couldn't have possibly been bribed. He couldn't possibly be corrupt. Right? Right?
Recently released audio recordings reveal conversations that happened between the Attorney General and individuals who were later implicated and in some cases convicted in the Feeding Our Future scandal.
Uh-oh.
In those recordings, the Attorney General...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of order.
Masons 124, paragraph 1, in debate, members must confine remarks to questions before the body and avoid personalities. The debate here is not any individual. It is the policy and the amendment.
Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General was asked in those recordings to use his authority to protect businesses under investigation for wrongdoing, and rather than distance himself or remain neutral to allow the legal process to unfold, he responded in those recordings, "Of course, I'm here to help."
Mr. Speaker, point of...
You know it's got to be good because they keep wanting to interrupt him. Just wait for it. Just wait for it. They know it's coming.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, there was a point of order, and I didn't hear a ruling or any resolution of the point of order. Was there a resolution to it?
I'll remind the body that there was no ruling made by the Speaker as to the point of order that was just stated. Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General in those recordings even urged the individuals, let's go fight these people. He was offered campaign contributions during that meeting, contributions that he later accepted. The release of those audio recordings raises questions about what's going on in the Attorney General's office that go directly.
What? You mean to tell me that they literally told the Attorney General, no, we got to go fight these people. We got to go fight the feds. And then they end up offering him campaign contributions. This whole thing's swept under the rug. And all of a sudden, it's blowing up in his face because he ended up accepting the campaign contributions and the entire thing got swept under the rug. Because when you ask the Attorney General or you ask Tim Walz, they just come out and they say, you know what? Nope. Everything was perfectly fine. We cooperated. We're the ones that ended up investigating all of this crap. No way. They couldn't believe it to save their life, right? You think if by chance that Ilhan Omar was somehow involved in any of this madness? Yeah. You would be correct to believe that Ilhan Omar would also be in on all of this madness. Why do I say that? Because maybe, just maybe, one of the businesses over inside of Minnesota, known as the Safari Restaurant in Minneapolis, the owner who donated to her campaign was convicted in the feeding of the feeding our children fraud. And here is a video that she put out just for them.
horta aad iyo aadaan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta safaari aan soo gaarnay sida dadka badan ay u og yihiin ciyaalkeena yaryar ilaa iyo number la eg 20 milyan oo ciyaal iskuuley ah waxay cuntadooda ka helaan iskoolka kaliyo marka waxaan fursad u helnay in aan sharci soo gudbino oo la dhahayo Meals Act oo u fududeynayo in waqtigaanay pandemic aan ku
Oh, I forgot to tell you that she helped push and pass some of the legislation that actually allowed this fraud to continue. So not only was she getting money donated to her from these, business people that ended up getting convicted of fraud, she put out she put out literal advertisement for them for their fraudulent activity, and also helped to pass the act that ended up making that happen.
dhalinyarada iskoolka aynan joogin oo guryahooda ay joogaan aynan gaajoonin oo familkoodii wili ay fursad u helaan in cunto ay helaan oo meelo qaarkood laga qaybinayo ay cuntada ka soo qaadan karaan marka aadaan ugu mahadcelinayaa Safari in ay tahay meelaha sayti oo diyaarinayo cunto maalin kasta.
Man, look at all those hungry kids getting fed. You don't think that as they were setting all this up and so on and so forth, that you would see all of those people just lined up getting freaking food. Oh yeah, Somali TV, Minnesota. That's something I learned as I've been investigating all of this crap. Somali TV, Minnesota is a very real thing. Somali news outlets are a very real thing. Oh, look at her helping the people. She's so nice with her cute little mask on and her rubber gloves walking around. Oh my goodness. Oh, that man looks insanely familiar. Uh-oh. It's a good thing he's wearing a mask. Man, I'm not saying that I might have looked at somebody very, very in depth today that might be involved in some other fraud over inside Minnesota that damn near blew my mind. I know we talked about nonprofits and all sorts of other stuff, and if you guys tuned in this morning, you probably saw this. Well, I went through and I made sure to put all of the little parts and pieces of this whole freaking scheme together today, and it's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You have two nonprofit organizations on the far left, and then a quote-unquote program called the Minnesota After School Advance that was founded by State Representative Matt Norris, that you guys can see right down over here at the bottom. Mr. Norris. After he was elected in 2023, so after he founded the thing, and he was elected in the program, apparently he founded the program when he was elected in 2023, he ended up increasing the tax break for this program from $1,000 to $1,500, and pretty much doubled, all right, the earned income for a household that could qualify for the program. It used to be around $40,000. Now it's sitting right around 80 because he included in the provision in 23 inflationary stuff as well. So it went from 70, now it's cruising towards 80. $200,000. They partnered and worked with two companies, Success Tutoring and Achievers Tutoring. Osman Sheikh Yusuf is the guy we're going to be taking a look at today, because he happened to be friends with a very famous guy that wanted to join ISIS. He happened to have contacts all the way over in Turkey and actually facilitated people from his home moving, like his hometown, moving over into Turkey to get funneled down and fight ISIS. And when his friend got arrested for trying to join ISIS, he wrote a letter to the judge asking for leniency, and he was very proud to have known him. Now, what these two companies did was they would use a tax break from the Minnesota government, or the Minnesota After School Advance program, used a tax break from the Minnesota government of up to $1,500 to pay for kids after school tutoring. Sounds nice. Only problem is, it's documented there was a lady that ended up getting like $2,400 or something like that, like worth of a bill that ended up going like to her. The Department of Revenue for Minnesota chose not to pay it, and then Minnesota After School Advance ended up taking all of her money. She only ended up going to two different tutoring sessions, and what she discovered for her children was that they're all online. And that out of those two tutoring sessions, the people could barely speak English. She says her kids are natural English speakers born here in the United States of America, and they quite literally couldn't understand the instructor because they were either from India or the Philippines, somewhere from overseas, right? And then it comes to find out, allegedly, that these companies are paying right around $5 an hour, $4.50 to be exact, if I remember correct, an hour for their online teacher instructors, none of which have a license to teach in the great state of Minnesota. So what ends up happening at the end of the day is Minnesota taxpayers end up getting ripped off, and everybody just kind of ends up getting screwed over. But it ends up getting like a little bit deeper, the more that we look at it. I told you about that guy and his ties to his terrorist friend, right? The one guy that ended up putting it up there. He said, "I am truly honored to call Ibrahim my friend, and I hope that good things happen to this wonderful young man who totally deserves a second chance at life." Yes, he thinks that funneling people over to ISIS, they deserve a second chance at life. Can't believe it. Yep. And he was convicted. Here you can see that gentleman was convicted and provided contact information to an ISIL member in Turkey for these guys so that they could gain access crossing the border from Turkey to Syria, and that they, in fact, did succeed in doing that. Now, that took place in April of 2014, and then the guy that went on trial here, the one that the court documents written about, Dowd, ended up traveling all the way over to California trying to buy a fake passport. That way he could cross into Mexico and make his way over into Syria so that he could join ISIS. Now, here's the big catch. This guy that we're talking about that runs that company was such good friends with him that he decided to write a letter into the judge. And now you have to believe that this man that wrote this letter, that's now involved in this nonprofit, for-profit business crap, for some reason, him and his buddy that he was such good friends with, that he wants to have a second chance at life, that they never talked about jihad, that he never talked about joining ISIS, that he never talked about all of his nefarious activity, and he was just a stand-up guy, right? Now, it gets a little bit deeper when we start looking into this within itself. Like I said, this gentleman that's actually pictured down here, I actually believe is his brother, who owns the other company that's right above him. So there's your information. All this came from like an original article that he ends up coming out and saying, no, it didn't end up happening. Here, you can see the lady says when the tax credit got claimed in September, she received a letter from the DOR saying that her entire tax refund of $2,418.43 was used to pay for her debt to Minnesota After School Advance, which had advanced the money to Achievers Tutoring. That would be the company that was owned by that Somali guy, by the way, which I was never ever able to find that guy's legitimate business under that name, right? I searched for a dozen different businesses, like all sorts of crap, and ended up actually finding businesses that he registered, that some were functioning during that time, some weren't. And we'll get to his response to all this crap in a minute, but I want you to take a look at this guy, Matt Norse. the now rep over inside of Minnesota, state rep over inside of Minnesota. Matt Norris is such an honest human being, ladies and gentlemen, that after he passed the legislation for that essentially the foundation that he ended up founding, or excuse me, the program that he ended up founding, right? That program that he ended up founding that he was so proud of back in the day, then he passed legislation that they were able to abuse and all of that other crap. You go over to his webpage for his candidacy, and when you go to the About section, this is what you see. Archive page not found. Now, the most interesting part about all of this is it says it was captured on December 15th of 2024, right up there at the top corner. Who wants to take a stab in the dark when that news article that I just quoted came out? That would be December 16th. Now, here's the funny part. When you go over to the Wayback Machine and you take a look at it, December 16th is the first recorded date on the Wayback Machine for that particular page. I ended up screwing up the screenshot so you don't get a full view of it, but you guys can see here, right here. So nothing all the way before it, and then all of a sudden all this crap after it, pretty much the day the article ended up coming out. So why would he hide that? That's a very good question. And did they manipulate the webpage because he doesn't want to be affiliated with like the nonprofit organization that ends up doing it? Well, too bad, because that same article I'm talking about ends up quoting and saying that the bill to increase spending on the tax credit was authorized by Rep. Matt Doris, who prior to his election to the legislature founded Minnesota After School Advance to help more people use the credit. Imagine that. So the guy that ends up founding it, who, by the way, used to lobby for it up over there where he's now a rep, one of the first things he does is pass legislation that increases the money that goes into it. And then we have what appears to be a shell radical jihadist company that is looking into it. Magically, at the exact same time, we have this. You go over to that program's webpage and you go to their About section, and wouldn't you know it, they have made the hard decision not to make new loans in 2025. They say it has become increasingly clear that the Minnesota K-12 education tax credit and the related assignment process needs significant administrative changes in order to work well at scale for families, service providers, lending programs like the MAA, right? My butt. Now, if we want to get really, really in depth for like all of their crap, they're also connected. They are also connected. Remember, if I go all the way back up to the top, well, maybe it's easier. Maybe I posted it right down here. Now, remember, we're talking about the MAA, the Minnesota After School Advance. Youth Prize ends up giving them money. They forward the money to these companies. So these people get free stuff. And their free stuff is going to see tutors online, allegedly, that are in other countries that they're only, getting, those tutors are getting paid like $5 an hour. So basically, these people, the end user, ends up going to these people, filling out tax paperwork. They send the money to these tutoring companies and they say, good job, go onto our website and take this tutoring. Meanwhile, they collect $2,400 and something odd dollars or whatever the hell it was that lady ended up claiming. And by the way, the taxes, she ended up not getting the tax credit. The tax credit's only for $1,500 and yet she got billed for $24. Just throw that out there. Now she had multiple kids, so maybe it goes down one per like multiple child. That company has given that nonprofit Youth Prize, right? That formed the program. They've given $86,219 grant to the New Vision Foundation. Their director was charged with fraud on August 6th of 25. Throwing that out there. Youth Prize also gave $90,030 to Kajug nonprofit organization. Their board chair was charged with fraud for Kajug. So now you have them donating almost $90,000 to New Vision Foundation. Just got popped in this fraud scheme. Then you have them donating $90,000 to Kajug, board chair, popped for fraud. And it's all on their most recent tax filings that you can see. And it's from the year 2022, which surprisingly is the year right before that guy ended up getting into office. Shocker. And then they end up sending all that other money in there. Now, the crazy part, when you go over and you look at that tax filing, is this. It says Youth Prize and Venn Foundation are working together to carry out Minnesota After School Advanced Program, which will enable easy access to Minnesota K through 12 education tax for the families, providing them with loan assistance, blah, 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 blah. So there is where they're claiming that they're doing it. Then this is where it gets interesting, because this part actually goes into their money. And this is an escrow and custodial arrangements. This is an escrow account that they manage for withholding the money, because remember, it's their program. It's these two companies, it's these two nonprofits program that are holding the money. Beginning balance for the year, $196,720. Additions during the year, $1.37 million. They put in an additional $1.37 million in there, and they distributed for that program, the MAA, they distributed $1.34 million. Amazing. That gave them an ending balance of $228,000. Now, this is probably the most shocking part. The Minnesota After School Advanced Scholarships, you can see right there. All right. Amount of cash grants, $410,000. Number of recipients, 1,543, ends up coming out to like $260 something, if I remember right, per recipient on average for that year. Yet we have a lady saying that she was billed almost $2,400 almost, I think. Seems kind of strange, don't you think? And then you got to ask yourself, if that's what they're giving out in advanced scholarships that's going over there, that's going in there, what the hell is that $1.342 million going to? Freaking disgusting. So now, when you take a better look at it and you go, cool, Youth Prize and Venn Foundation, which Venn Foundation, by the way, is the one that does all of the lobbying, all right, for all of this money and the programs and all that crap that the state puts on. But the big catch is the Minnesota After School Advance, you can't get a shred. You cannot get a shred of information on them because it is a program. It is simply a program. There is nothing on it. There's no tax filings, no anything like that. What I just showed you was the most amount of information that I could literally find on the web. So everything on it's hidden. So you've got the state rep that's hiding himself. You've got the program itself that's hidden. You've got private companies that personally couldn't find underneath the name Achievers Tutoring or Success Tutoring. Couldn't find them. I did find other companies filed underneath Osman Sheikh Yusuf, but none of them were DBAs or doing business as Achievers Tutoring or any of that crap. And then you got people being ripped off at the end of the freaking day. This is one example of crap that I was able to find. And in my personal opinion, yeah, I think that they ought to be looking into it. Yusuf guy ended up writing a letter back in January, and this is how you know he is a pile of garbage. He ends up saying that the MAA was responsible for approving applications and determining the eligibility, and that they end up really, really tearing into it. They do like a thorough background check and all of that crap, and then they end up getting those contracts, right? He also says that Lou enrolled her kids in Achievers Tutoring through MAA, which conducted thorough background checks before approving her application. So it's not his fault. It's MAA's fault that all of that happened. Meanwhile, he's an asshole that charged $2,400 probably. Then he also says that they're no longer, like they have zero contracts with them this year. Remember, I told you that they said that they're not doing contracts in 2025 because the government needs to get its crap in order. It's not easy enough for everybody to work with. Freaking trash, man. C88 USA came in gifting out a Speak the Truth membership, ladies and gentlemen. And I know there was a super chat a while back that I ended up missing. I really apologize. That thing just pissed me off. And I forgot to tell you that they are recruiting people out of mosques. In that same mosque that they were recruiting people out of to sign up for all of this garbage, that same mosque that they were recruiting people out of was also being used to recruit people to scam more money and this whole like the overall fraud scheme that they've ended up recovering. Oh, and one of the business addresses that I ended up finding for the company where these people said that they were going does actually trace back to the same place that a bunch of the other shell companies that were used in the fraud investigation, everything else went. So, I mean, it's just the details, it's the little details. Gavsky Skates coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you very much, sir. Fun Bo gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you, guys. And he says, do you think anyone will go to jail for this? Anyone at all? It seems like accountability is disappearing until there's none left. No, man, nobody's going to jail for this crap. I doubt it. Mort Rogue says years of critical race theory, browbeating. This is why conditioning us to be receptive to abuse from our enemies. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Them shouting Islamophobia, them shouting all of that stuff is what conditioned American people to want to keep their mouth shut on everything. And I think it's pretty sad, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, over inside New Orleans, Mr. Bavino ended up hitting the streets, and it looks like people are actually pretty happy to see him.
Now, the agents did get some heckling, but there were shouts of support as well and people who wanted to stop and take selfies, particularly with Chief Bavino.
I'm an immigrant. I'm from South Africa. I came here legally, in a legal way, in terms of my legal visa, and I did everything by the book.
DHS released mugshots of some of the people arrested so far as part of Operation Cattle.
So, do you think everybody was happy to see Mr. Bavino over inside there? No, actually, they were not. His ICE agents, the CBP agents, were actually seen, patrolling right down the middle of the famous street over there inside New Orleans, just literally walking around like they were doing movements to contact over inside of Iraq. But they did have some pretty good arrests today over inside of New Orleans. But none of that came without, of course, people being stupid and rioting over inside of the city hall. Look at this poor girl just sitting right here. She's like, crap, I got into the wrong crowd. I thought I just came to wear my keffiyeh and hold a sign up. No, I didn't realize that crazy nose ring girl was going to be here shouting shame the whole time at city council. Bunch of freaking retards. Anyways, what are they shaming them for? Well, they're shaming them for things like this. Here's an arrest of a sex offender that ended up getting his butt deported.
Get my address stuff out.
Being Tom.
Give my wife the phone and. Let me get the information.
Give it to her.
Give it to your wife. Okay.
All right, you're under arrest.
Yeah, I got it.
You're illegally present in the United States. You understand that?
Well, not illegally, but I got it.
Well, you're illegal.
Well, not illegally. No, man, you're here illegally. Well, once the cuffs were on him and he was standing around for a hot minute, turns out he is actually quite sorry for everything that he had done. Now, remember, the people inside of City Hall are shouting shame because of stuff like this.
Well, I'm sorry. I never meant to do it. It was never planned that way. It was just, as bad as it looked, it was never planned that way. It just somehow turned out like that. I'm sorry for all that I've done. I made a mistake. Not only me, my family.
I'm sorry it looked that way. I just raped a girl. I didn't mean to rape her. I tripped, I fell, and she landed on my penis.
And all this time, let my wife live in fear,
But you did just admit that you violated your immigration terms, right?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You did not when you were convicted for a crime?
Yeah, okay. Now, for a crime, yes, I did.
Okay.
I'll be grateful to go to Vietnam, even though I don't know nothing. I came over here when I was so young,
So you'd be willing to go to Vietnam if they deported you to Vietnam?
I even told my wife, if y'all can give me the paper, I'll fly over there myself. Yeah. I don't need y'all to come, buy me a ticket.
I'll fly over there myself. Dude, you mean to tell me that guy didn't know that he was supposed to get deported? Yeah, no, he totally knew. He absolutely knew he was supposed to get deported. Here's another rapist, by the way, that they ended up getting off the streets over inside of Louisiana. Shame on them. So 2 rapists, at least confirmed, today taken off the streets over inside of New Orleans, but all of the liberals screaming inside there are pretty pissed off about it. Those aren't my kilos. No, rape, RAPE, right? Like forcible forcible sexual penetration. That's what that gentleman was allegedly convicted of doing. I haven't seen the court document, so I got to be careful. Allegedly convicted of doing. Oh my goodness, man. What the hell is wrong with people? Oh, yeah. And then, of course, they're going to go out and harass them while they're doing their jobs. And the whistles ended up making their way out as well. Now, I want you to think about this. I just showed you 2 sexual offenders that they're deporting from the country. There you have a lady handing out the rape whistles to everybody. They're warning rapists. They're warning killers. They're warning some of the worst people inside of this country that, truthfully, most of us, even if they were U.S. citizens, would want to have thrown in a wood chipper. But because they are, we can't. But the ones that aren't U.S. citizens, we can at least deport them. These crazy people, for some reason, don't care or don't do the due diligence to look into it to know that they actually exist and that they're actually out there. They think they're just going around rounding up random frickin' people to scream at. Now, some of you guys might actually remember somebody that I talked about a little while ago. I think I actually brought him up last week and I was like, oh, he's making his way around. I bet you he's going to make it somewhere on mainstream media sometime soon. You remember the guy that was at the pot farm that ended up blocking, the guy that ended up blocking feds from going onto the pot farm over inside of California and ended up refusing illegal orders, sitting in his car. I believe they broke out his window, drug him out the car, threw him in handcuffs. And then I showed you guys a video of him like whining and crying about it. They didn't even end up charging him. They let him go. And then over on side that place, by the way, let me remind you guys, over on side that place where that ended up happening, they ended up arresting a bunch of freaking minors in this bust, as you can see right here in this BBC article, minors and illegal aliens in this freaking drug bust over inside of California where all of that happened. But besides all of that, the Senate Judiciary Committee decided it would be a good idea to release this video today from MSNBC yelling and complaining at Trump for all the horrible things they're doing.
Will you first tell me just what it was like the moment when you realized what was happening at this farm? You work for a third-party contractor, you're security guard at this farm.
A farm. They're calling it a farm. I just throwing that out there. They're calling it a farm. By the way, he's a vet. Don't forget, he's a vet.
And just describe, did you realize when all these folks roll up that was ICE?
My first thoughts were in shock. I was in disbelief that all this was happen. Honestly, I thought it wouldn't be a problem to go to work as long as I did nothing wrong, as long as I identified myself, who I was.
You're a security guard.
And clearly it didn't matter if I was a citizen or if I was a veteran or if
you're a security guard.
If I identified who I was at all, it didn't matter to them.
No, and this is what pisses me off. What matters is that you ended up blocking the freaking roadway and you ended up not allowing the feds to go through and all sorts of other stuff. Plant? You guys think he's a plant? They found this guy on TikTok. They're rooting out these people. I showed you a week ago. I found this dude's story a week ago over on TikTok. And now they're parading him around as if this is the entire thing. The guy was freaking guarding a pot farm, blocked the roadway with his vehicle. Agents told him to move his crap. He refused to do it. He removed it. He refused to exit his vehicle. So yeah, they ripped him out and ended up getting all of those kids and illegal aliens out of there. Underage employment, pot farm, illegal aliens. This piece of shit was guarding him and wouldn't let the ICE agents go in there. And now he's sitting here crying because he's like, I'm a veteran. They're abusing me. That's what he claims. He claims to be a veteran. But ladies and gentlemen, let's not act like things can't get any worse. All right? Let's not act like things can't get any worse in this country. This is just Minnesota. This is This is just New Orleans. This is just California. This is just New York. It's not like any of this crap can happen in a red state like Ohio, right? Until next time, peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I'm out of here.
Come see Columbus, Ohio, fraud investigators. If you go to the government-assisted housing areas, you will find that most of the housing is Somalians. I would say about 80% of the government-assisted housing in Columbus is occupied by Somalians, and the parking lot is occupied with a whole bunch of brand new cars. And the women walking around have designer purses with EBT cards, and they have Apple iPhones stuck up in their hijabs. Yeah. And then go to the businesses that are owned by the men. Because see, what happens is when you have a restaurant or when you have a little corner store and you have a couple of wives and you only have to claim one, then that means the other wives get EBT cards, and you can use those EBT cards to buy food for your store or your restaurant. Yeah. Or what you can do is you can get a home health aid company. And then you only hire Somalians to work the home health aid. And what you do is you just make sure their paperwork looks right. It don't have to be right, but you just make sure it looks right. And then you send them off